Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty, Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
This is Rhett from the Cannon Fire Podcast, and I am so excited to tell you guys about our newest sponsor, the East Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are a Florida nonprofit organization sponsoring youth cheerleading for ages 5 to 15 and full contact football teams for ages 5 to 14. Right now, registration is open and teams are looking for athletes and cheer coaches. Register now, but hurry, teams are filling up fast. Climb aboard and join the crew. Fire the cannons and go Bucs. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Joining you today for episode 61, and probably the biggest show of the year. It's that time. The 2019 season prediction show, and we're going to be doing it live on YouTube. So if you're watching this, it is Saturday, July 20th at 6 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us, and I said it's our biggest show of the year, sometimes our most controversial show of the year because we haven't always been right. But we're here to give you our opinion at the end of the day, and it's going to be a good one. So welcome back to the show. If you're new around here, I am your host, Rhett. Joining alongside me, as always, my good buddy and co-host, Mr. Bucs Football, Evan. Evan, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm getting ready to get these season predictions underway. And before we jump in there, we do have kind of an announcement. Some technical upgrades for the show. Our boy Evan went out, got himself a new studio microphone. So you're coming in loud and clear, buddy. And it sounds really, really good. What's the mic you ended up buying?
I ended up purchasing, I went to Best Buy, and I got the Blue Snowball, and I believe it's the ice version. So it's the cheapest one. It's not that much. It's like $50. They had a few other ones there that were like $70, but I figured, for this, this would work just fine. And so far, I mean, I tested it out a few times, and you said it sounds good. So really happy with it so far. It's simple. You have the mic here. You plug it in. If you have a USB in your computer, you plug it into USB, and there you go.
Oh yeah, it's a solid microphone. The Blue Snowball was actually the one that I used before I've got my mic now. So even, the first year of the show and the podcast you and I have been doing for 3-4 plus years now, that was my first microphone. Hell of a mic, and you're sounding good. So we still got you coming through the Skype feed.
Actually, my first time ever doing it on a computer. If you guys notice, like, I'm never on my phone or whatever during the show, like, my phone's right here, but
yeah.
It's because I'm on my phone, like I'm recording on my phone, and that's why, like, when I don't have headphones in on my phone, that's why my sound isn't the greatest. So and just trying to improve the show.
Once you get the liberty to move that extra hand around and actually check your phone so you can fact check something, it's a great feeling. But ladies and gentlemen, we are here to get into season predictions today. We talked about this show last week. We talked about doing it live, so we're going to use the YouTube Premiere feature. We're going to do that for you. And if you're listening on any of our other outlets, just tune in and pretend we didn't say anything about any sort of video. But if you do want to watch with video, check us out at youtube.com and, of course, bucsreport.com. So, seems like the offseason is led up until this moment. A ton has been said, a lot of speculation about this 2019 Buccaneers season. Head coach Bruce Arians' first season in Tampa. We're hoping he can change the culture and turn things around. This is a team that went 5-11 2 years in a row. So they're going to want to turn things around, and let's break down how we think we can do that. It's a storyline season for more than one reason, and of course we'll break that down and we'll get into that today. But I guess we should just start at week one, huh?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So week one of the 2019 Tampa Bay Buccaneers season, they started at home against the San Francisco 49ers, a team that they played in Raymond James less than a year ago. The Bucs take on the San Francisco 49ers at home to open the season. This is an interesting matchup between two younger teams who have quite a bit to prove. San Francisco is in a situation where they have some guys that still need to step up, but they'll ultimately be riding on returning quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy G is returning from a season-ending ACL injury and hasn't played an ounce of football since last September. He's what I would consider a question mark. You really don't know how he's going to play, especially the first week of the season. So there's going to be some question marks going into it. But looking at what else this team is going to need help on, I think what they're uncertain on is their receiving core and their secondary as well. The wide receiver unit doesn't have a whole lot of experience outside of guys like Marquise Goodwin and Jordan Matthews. If you throw out one of those two players, or even both, there isn't anybody else, I think, with more than 2 or 3 years of experience in the league. So, depending on how Jimmy G is going to do, depending on how he can gel with those receivers, I think they're going to have some trouble offensively. Defensively, we can talk about that in a second, but offensively, I think they're going to have some trouble, and Jimmy G's going to have to gel. What are you thinking about this week one?
Well, I mean, what you said is pretty much true. I mean, the receiving core isn't the greatest. It's probably, of their offense, it's probably the weakness. I had down in my notes here that it would be Jimmy Garoppolo's first game back in almost a year. So, yeah, like I believe he got injured in like week 3 of last year or something. So, yeah, that's going to be tough for him. Obviously, I'm not saying he's not going to play, because he's going to play. He's been cleared. It's just, after a gruesome injury like that, your first game back, you're not going to be the exact same player you were. Yeah. And I feel like there's a lot of question marks with this 49ers team, because last year, they were the darling to basically go to the playoffs.
Yeah. And
that didn't happen, and now they are sort of stuck in a weird spot, kind of like the Bucs are, where like they could be good if this happened, but they could be bad if this happened. So yeah. I think, having Jimmy G's first game back is going to hurt the 49ers. I have in my notes here that the Bucs are actually lucky that the game is week 1 and not like week 9, week 10, because if Jimmy G starts to get going, I feel like he's a guy that can gets better as the year goes on, and I feel like this 49ers team could definitely do that. So yeah, Bucs are catching them at the right time. So did you want to go on the defense, or did you want me to make my prediction here?
I was actually going to pick up off of what you said and transition into the defense. You brought up Jimmy G coming back from injury. There's another
Major
guy on
injury.
That San Francisco team that's going to be coming back from injury, and it's a big storyline for Bucs fans. That
very well.
Yeah, we all know him very well. Haven't spoken too much on him since he signed with San Francisco, but that's former Bucs linebacker Quan Alexander. He's going to be making his return, and he's going to be hungry to make a statement week 1 in Tampa against his former team. So, I mean, with that linebacker core, do you think they could give him trouble?
Give the Bucs trouble? I mean,
give the Bucs trouble on offense.
It's another thing. Like, how, like, is Quan going to be 100% healthy? I don't know. Like, that's tricky, because you don't want to rush him, but you know he's going to want to play in this game. If this was like week 5, week 6, he'd definitely play and he'd be fine. But I mean, week 1, I don't expect him to do much in the preseason. You know he's going to want to play. I wrote in my notes here, did San Francisco do enough to improve their defense? They went out and they got Alexander. They drafted Nick Bosa, who I'll be more worried about Nick Bosa than I am Quan Alexander. So they also had DeForest Buckner, who's a really good player. Richard Sherman in the secondary. Excuse me, but
Richard Sherman's kind of a question mark, though. He's gonna. Yeah, I mean, he's not the same Richard Sherman that he was.
No, but I mean, he's still decent. And I think that's a big question for their defense. That's the biggest question, I think, is their secondary. Secondary that had, I believe, 2 interceptions last year or something. Like, the Bucs were horrible in intercepting the ball. The 49ers were worse. So, I feel like that's a big thing. Like I said, I wouldn't want to play him later in the year after Bosa's been developing. Quan gets fully healthy. Jimmy G gets fully healthy. They also have Jerick McKinnon, running back, coming off a major injury as well. So I feel like the Bucs are catching him at the right time.
Yeah, definitely. So with that being said, man, I'll give my prediction, and then I'll toss it to you to give yours. Looking at this San Francisco team coming in, as you brought up, it is going to be week 1. It's prime position for a team that kind of has to figure out what their pace is going to be with some injured stars coming back. I think this is a winnable game for Tampa Bay at home, and I think they get it done 31-24, and they're 1-0 on the year.
Yeah, I didn't do any scores. I can basically say I do think this game is going to be a little bit sloppy. Just because first game of the year, it's never the best football. Guys are basically, the starters have had 2 weeks off basically because they don't play the 4th preseason game. So, especially in the 49ers case, Jimmy G, I would assume he's going to play a little bit in the preseason, just because they don't want his first ever action in a year to be, when it matters. But we'll see. I do have this as a win also. I believe that the Buccaneers are going to start off 1-0. This is a very winnable game at home against a football team that is very similar to you, but I feel like you're the better team. You beat them last year. I understand that last year was different. They didn't have they started Nick Mullins last year, and they didn't have Nick Bosa last year, and Jerick McKinnon was still injured. But I feel like
Reuben
the Bucs,
Foster just got pulled out the day before, the day of the game, right?
Yep. That was the day before the game. Reuben Foster got arrested and was put in jail. Yeah, so they had that whole thing around them. It's going to be less drama on the 49ers side this time, but I do think the Bucs get it done. If I had to do a score, I don't really like doing this, but I will give it just to play along. 26-20 Buccaneers.
Yeah, predicting scores is tough. I never really like it either, but I think it's another factor just to see how close you can get. Maybe set the tone of what kind of game it's going to be. But with San Francisco, while we're on the topic of former Buccaneers, moving on to week 2, Tampa travels to Carolina to take on resident crybaby Gerald McCoy and the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Division games always bring an extra element to the game. They're harder to predict, but looking at this Panthers team, here's what we know. This is a defense that almost always gives Tampa problems when they match up, with pieces like Luke Kuechly being one of the top linebacker talents in the NFL, defensive lineman Quan Short, and then, now you add in the combination of him and Gerald McCoy. We haven't talked at all about Gerald McCoy since his exit. I think, once it was done, I don't think we mentioned him but one time here on the entire show. Now we kind of have to talk about him because you have to kind of game plan and know what to expect, but with the combination of him and Quan Short, we've seen McCoy make other people better in the past. He definitely has some left in the tank. We haven't talked about him, but now we have to. Another big strength I see of this Carolina team is running back Christian McCaffrey. He's the definition of an X factor. Christian McCaffrey has the ability to make something out of nothing, and he can catch a defense sleeping at some of the worst times because we've seen it. He's given the Bucs hell in the past, and it wouldn't surprise me very much to see him doing it again. What else do you see in this Carolina team?
Well, I have in my notes here that I thought that they had a very underrated offseason. I feel like not many people are talking about them, and they kind of should. Because I feel like they did improve a little bit, maybe not on the offensive side of the ball as much as you would have liked to see, but they first round drafted Brian Burns. I think probably the second best pure pass rusher in the draft, maybe even the best, regarded by some. So sorry about that. So you add him to the mix to a defensive line that has, like you said, Quan Short, Gerald McCoy, Dante Poe, I believe, is still there. He's there. So there is some trouble there. Luke Kuechly, obviously, still there. Secondary is still a little shaky. Now, but also in the draft, they drafted Greg Little. I like Greg Little. Will Greer, they drafted, who's not really going to play. But Christian Miller is the defensive end from Alabama. I think he's really good. I think it was an underrated move by them. So their defense, to me, their front seven's going to be really good. And I think that the Buccaneers are going to have trouble. Another thing I put in my notes is Bucs don't really do well in Carolina. Like, every time they beat the Panthers, it seems to be in Tampa. And even in Carolina, it's normally not really that close of a game. They haven't beaten the Panthers since they haven't beaten the Panthers in Carolina since 2016 on that Roberto Aguayo last-second field goal.
I was just about to bring that up. We might have to bring Aguayo back to beat the Panthers at home.
So, yeah, that was the last time. The last time before that was 2012 in overtime. So they've always been really close games when the Bucs win in Carolina. But when the Bucs lose, they haven't been so pretty. 2013, lost in a blowout. 2014, lost in a close game, but Cam Newton wasn't even playing. 2015, lost the last game. Lovey's last game was a blowout. 2016, beat them by barely anything. 2017, it was 2017. I'm trying to think of what happened.
We lost a pretty ugly one, too.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, 2017, they lost. That was the Christmas Eve one, I believe. And then, but it was a close game. And then this past year, they lost. And on, the final score made it look like a close game this past year, but really wasn't. It was at 28-7 or something at halftime.
Yeah, it was. They were rolling on top of us by halftime. It was an ugly multi-possession game in Carolina. Yeah, the Bucs just have trouble with Carolina in Carolina. And also I said that Cam Newton might finally be healthy. He's got some less limitations on his shoulder, and also it's a short week for the Buccaneers. So yeah,
the good news is that I do think that the Panthers and the Bucs are closer to talent than people think. I do believe that the Bucs are going to be riding momentum coming off the win in Week 1. So, do you want to do your prediction, or do you want me?
I'll toss out one more thing. Kind of looking at the weaknesses of this team, because you have to analyze anything you can take advantage of. Yeah. But I think in a sense similar to San Francisco, maybe not as bad. I don't think Carolina has a true number one wide receiver that can replace Devin Funchess. Outside of tight end Greg Olsen and second-year receiver DJ Moore, the Carolina passing attack goes through running back Christian McCaffrey. We've seen that plenty of times. They'll throw it out to him on a dump screen. He'll gain 30 yards and hurdle over somebody to be the highlight of the week. We've seen it all. DJ Moore proved to be tough and to bring down after the catch, but Devin Funchess out of the picture, he'll kind of have to step up, and he'll have to prove he can match up against the top cornerback, which the Bucs don't have, but, it's the inconsistencies there. And another thing, too, was that Cam thing. You said he might be healthy, but he might not be healthy. And with the limitations on his throwing arm, which is most important, you want to make sure he can kind of figure out not only his pace, but just how to connect in a limited capacity if that's what he's forced to do. Of course, they've got, some fine backup quarterbacks, but you want Cam to be healthy. And if he's not 100%, which right now we don't know, that's something else that could be taken advantage of. But I'll throw my prediction out there. I'll toss it back to you, and we'll move on. I bring up all of those weaknesses to say I don't think the Bucs are going to follow up on their winning ways. I think they're going to fall on the road. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a gritty, close game that'll be won in the trenches. 21-18 is my final score, and the Bucs go to 1-1 on the year.
Yeah, so one thing I will say about the Carolina offensive line isn't that great. But, yeah, like you said, they still have McCaffrey. Greg Olsen is still, he's not the same player, but still pretty good. So, yeah, it's a short week for the Bucs. I know it's a short week for the Panthers as well. But, yeah, I don't see the Bucs win this game. I have this as a loss. Pretty low-scoring game. I'm going to say 17-16 Panthers. A lot of these times, it's either it either goes in Carolina, it either goes two ways. It's either a really close game and the Bucs win, or it's a blowout and the Bucs lose. And if it's a close game and the Bucs win, it's normally not a high-scoring game. So the fact that it might not be a high-scoring game may actually benefit the Bucs, but in this case, I just think that being on the road with a short week, it's just going to be difficult.
So moving on here, we both got the Bucs at 1-1. This kind of always happens. We'll see.
Well, once we get into the later, there's a few.
Yeah, man, those early game predictions, you almost feel like you're a lot more confident than you would be games past week 7, week 8.
Because you've had, because you're basically assuming okay,
yeah,
everybody's gonna be healthy. There won't be any weather problems like that kind of stuff, and you've had time to think about these first 2-3 games for months. So,
right, yeah,
pretty much on the same page.
Yeah. So moving on to week 3, we have got the New York Giants coming to town. This is a matchup I feel like we've seen once a year for the last 5 years. Yep. Bucs take on the Giants at home. This is a Giants team that's going to need more help than ever, truly and honestly. I think Dave Gettleman is the sole reason the Bucs are going to win this game. No fancy breakdowns, no player comparisons. I just see the Giants as a franchise caught somewhere between a rebuild and a tailspin. You lose Odell Beckham, you draft Daniel Jones, and you have an aging Eli Manning who nobody knows if he'll start. I believe Eli has the potential to, be Eli Manning we've seen in the past. I don't think he's a bad quarterback, but Tampa fans should know better than anyone. Tampa fans should know better than anyone. Quarterback controversy is not going to lead to anything good whatsoever. And this is a Giants team that struggled to win more than 3 games the past few years. So I think the Bucs are going to win this one handily, 24-14, and they'll go to 2-1.
Yeah, I had the Bucs win this one too. I basically said in my notes, I said Giants aren't good. I said if you stop Barkley, you're going to win the game. If you let Barkley run all over you and run wild, it might be a little bit of a closer game than you would like. I always say Winston plays well against the Giants, which is true. Looking back, in 2015, the Bucs lost in Tampa. Winston played pretty well. That's when Mike Evans had 8 or 9 drops in that one game when it was raining. And if he would have caught if he would have caught all them balls, they would have connected for 250 yards or whatever, something like that. Winston and Evans would have 250 yards receiving or something that game. 2017, they won on a Nick Folk field goal. Winston still played well. 2018, they lost, but Winston came in the second half and played pretty well. So I think Winston will continue his ways there. Bucs are at home, and the Bucs are just a better team. So if the Bucs want to be, I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but if you want to be considered even a true contender, you can't be losing to teams like this. Losing to the 49ers, that's kind of okay because the 49ers do have some talent. This Giants team they've got some nice pieces like Barkley, Will Hernandez on the offensive line. Sterling Shepard is a pretty good player, is a pretty good receiver. Evan Ingram's pretty good, but just looking up and down the roster, there's just not a whole lot there. And I don't think their coaching's that great. Pat Shurmur, I don't really like him. So, I had the Bucs win this one. And if they lose this one, it would be a crusher for a lot of people in the fan base.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So before we move on, you got a score? I know you hate the scores, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but just for the fun of it.
I'm going to say defense is a decent day. 27-14 Bucs.
Okay, I'm with you on that. So moving on to week 4. This one is the start of the infamous road trip. Week 4 sees the Bucs.
Wait. 1 second. You never gave me your score for the Giants game.
Yes, sir, I did.
No, you did not.
Oh, did I not? 24-14.
Yeah, you didn't say that. I'm
pretty sure I did.
No, you did not.
Oh.
I would have remembered.
Tape don't lie. Tape don't lie. Moving on to week 4, the Buccaneers are headed out to the West Coast to take on Sean McVay and the L.A. Rams. This is a game that is kind of like the Giants game for me in the sense that it's easy to describe, and I don't have to get into too much detail because everybody kind of knows what's going to happen. This is a Rams team who just had a disappointing Super Bowl appearance, and they're going to be playing hard to get to where they were before. Of course, they're missing a few of the pieces that helped them get to the big game. They're still the Rams, and Sean McVay is still Sean McVay. I can expect these guys to have another pretty good season. Maybe not best in the NFL season for as long as they were, but a pretty good season for the Rams, and I think it ultimately means the Bucs are going to lose a high-scoring game. It'll be 35-28, and Rams will take it. Bucs will fall to 2-2 on the year.
Yeah, I basically said the Bucs go out west, and it's a tough travel. Whenever you go out west for an East Coast team, or technically, so it's south, but I still consider the Bucs kind of, but you're traveling from one end of the country to the other, and that's never easy to go and play a football game. The times are different, with jet lag and stuff like that. So, and it doesn't help that you might be able to get away with that if you're playing a bad team, but you're playing a Rams team that just went to the Super Bowl. And while they did not win, and a lot of people thought that they weren't even the best team, I didn't think they were the best team. I thought the Saints were better than them. And the Saints they should have won that game, but the Rams are just too good. This is the Ndamukong Suh's return game. We'll see what happens there, but and I said that it's too early in the season for the defense to truly come together. This is the first real test, I think, on offense for them, because the 49ers, the Giants, and the Panthers don't have the offense that the Rams do, nowhere near. This is the first test. Playing defense on the road is even tougher. Yeah, the Rams are going to win. 34-21.
All right. And talking about Ndamukong Suh, you said it is going to be his comeback game. I think the type of head coach that Sean McVay is, they probably already know exactly what they're going to do to shut him down. And, of course, he does play a bigger role than just getting to the quarterback, getting pressure on the quarterback, because as an interior lineman, of course, he's not a big sacks guy. But I think they're going to know what they need to do simply just because he played there last year. They're going to know what they need to do to shut him down, and that's going to be a big part of why the defense isn't going to slow anyone down, and it'll be as high-scoring as it is. But moving on, we've got Week 5. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers take on New Orleans in New Orleans. It's another division matchup for the Bucs and a chance to make a statement against a team that we were kind of able to hang with last season. Let's be real. We only lost the second game in the second half of last season. We had it pretty handily the first half, so, let's see how this one goes. The Saints are probably still a lot of people's Super Bowl pick, and rightfully so. I'm not going to argue that they're not one of the best teams in football, and they really only seem to get better throughout the offseason.
Yeah.
They had a pretty solid offseason. You've got Drew Brees, who doesn't really show any signs of retiring. The connection he has with number one receiver Michael Thomas, the argument can be made, Michael Thomas versus Mike Evans, but the fact is that he's got a Hall of Famer throwing him football, so that's going to be a connection that can make some stuff happen. New Orleans is still working with a pretty good defense, so it's going to be interesting to see how they match up with Tampa, especially after last year's Week 1 game. And, of course, that can fall into the category of it's a Week 1 game, but it'll be an interesting matchup for sure. What are you thinking?
Yeah, this is you're sort of catching New Orleans now. Remember, I said last year, bless you. I said last year, I was like, it's good that the Bucs play New Orleans Week 1 because Saints typically don't start off too well. This Week 4, Week 5 is when they sort of start to get rolling. And they're playing Week 5 in New Orleans. So I said another tough road game. There's lots of travel because you're traveling from Tampa to LA, LA back to Tampa, Tampa to New Orleans. That's a lot. And I said Saints had a fantastic offseason that no one really talked about. They were able to keep Teddy Bridgewater, and I know he's a backup quarterback, but I think he had bigger offers elsewhere.
I like Teddy, man. Teddy
Bridgewater's a good quarterback.
Yeah, we talked about hypothetical situations. If Jameis Winston didn't work out, Teddy's going to be on the free agent market next year. So,
if let's say for a reason you weren't high enough to draft a quarterback, which if Winston doesn't work out, you probably will be. I prefer either Herbert or Tua over Teddy, but yeah, Teddy Bridgewater's good.
Yeah.
They added Jared Cook, who has been a very good tight end over the last few seasons in Oakland, I believe. And then they also added Malcolm Brown from the Patriots, defensive tackle. And they added a few other nice depth pieces. They added Latavius Murray to replace Mark Ingram. I feel like he's a pretty good player. And in the draft, they drafted Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, safety out of Florida. He's a really good player. So, yeah, the Bucs are going to lose this one. 31-24. Defense takes some hits these last two games. And, yeah, it's they're 2-3 right now for me, losing record, but not time to panic quite just yet.
Absolutely. So I'm with you in the boat. I'll get to my prediction in a second here, but one more thing that I look at when I see this New Orleans team weakness-wise, they're kind of in trouble at center. Centers often get overlooked in the NFL, but the best players at the position, I mean, they can change pretty much anything on a play, even pre-snap. You know, they're a very, very important part of an offense and how it runs.
But besides the quarterback, they're the only ones that touches the ball every offensive play. So
exactly. So Saints center Max Unger, a 3-time Pro Bowler, decided to retire this offseason after 10 seasons. To replace him, the Saints signed Nick Easton, and then they spent a second-round pick on Eric McCoy.
McCoy's good.
Easton missed the entire 2018 season after undergoing surgery to correct a herniated disc in his neck, but the Saints also signed him to a 4-year deal. Despite that long-term investment, the Saints may tab McCoy as their starting center. So, I mean, if McCoy can step up, he's good, but again, that's still a lot of pressure to step up and fill the shoes of a guy who was a 3-time Pro Bowler, had been there 10 years. So it'll be interesting to see, but I'm with you on this one. I do not think the Bucs are going to be able to do enough to get it done in the Dome. It's a division game. It'll be a close one. I think it'll be a dogfight like it was Week 1 last year, but I think the Saints are going to edge out 38-35, and the Bucs move to 2-3.
Man, you got this. You got this offense. You got this offense producing.
I think I do. So, moving on to Week 6, we are still on that road trip, and probably the most important stretch of it by far starting in Week 6. It's Tampa Bay taking on Carolina. So,
a home game.
This week it's international. The Bucs lose a division home game to play Carolina in London to fill the NFL's money-hungry agenda. Looking at this matchup, we'll have a better idea of strengths and weaknesses by this time of the season than we would Week 2 before.
Yeah.
With that being said...
And maybe some injuries, too. So
yeah, you can't predict injuries, but that's always a factor. But with all of that being said, I truly believe that Tampa can get the W across the pond. This is a hungry team under BA, but this is a team who doesn't want to get swept by Carolina, and this is a team who doesn't want to get swept by Gerald McCoy. It won't be talked about. It hasn't been said, but it's true. You know it's true. I know it's true. These guys do not want to lose to Gerald McCoy twice. That's going to suck. I think
preferably no times, but
yeah, preferably not to lose at him at all, but let's be realistic. But I think they'll put it together. I think they make it happen. Jet lag gets the best of Carolina in this one, and the Buccaneers win. Believe it or not, shocking everyone, this offense is going to keep rolling 28-10. And they improved to 3-3.
I think I don't know. Have you had them under 20 points?
The
second Carolina game.
I do, but I have not yet. No.
What about was this Week 2 Carolina game? Was that under 20?
Carolina game was a. Let me check here. 21-18. So that's the closest I got them. Is 21.
All right. Yeah, you had them over 20 points each game. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I said this is a coin flip for me. Because, I mean, whenever you're in London, I feel like it doesn't really matter who the better team is, just because that travel's pretty gruesome and stuff. So, gonna be at 9:30 a.m.
Oh man, gonna be waking up bright and early to watch that one.
Yeah, gotta be waking up and watching. Well, the good thing is, you know, win or lose, you can sort of go about your day. With the Bucs already having been played,
right?
So that's a little good. So. Me and you could record the podcast a little bit earlier that day. So
yeah, really.
So I said, yeah, I Week 2, I had said that Carolina and Tampa were kind of pretty close together. And I basically just said in my notes here, I don't think Carolina is good enough to sweep Tampa. Tampa isn't good enough to sweep Carolina, but I don't think Carolina is good enough to sweep Tampa either. There's a lot of question marks there. If the Carolina the offensive line isn't that great for the Panthers as is, it's not great for the Bucs. But if either team suffers an injury there, the defensive lines might take advantage. And I said, travel for both teams will impact them, and it's going to be a sloppy game. I think a lot of these London games are pretty sloppy. I think the Bucs are going to end up winning 23-21.
Okay. I'm with you on the sloppy game thing. And I said 28-10 because I think it'll be lopsided because of the sloppiness. But let me just throw out there, I don't think all 28 of those points are going to be offensive points.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Can't throw a pick six?
Pick six, scoop and score, who knows? But I think maybe the defense will step it up this year. And so, heading out of that game, you've got them winning, correct?
Yep, and at the bye week, they're pretty good shape.
Yeah, so bye week, week 7, we have got them both going 3-3. So again, week 7 headed into the bye week. Buccaneers are going to lose that one. No, I'm just kidding. Week 7 is the bye week, and then week 8, the road trip continues. Buccaneers are taking on Tennessee in Tennessee. A week after the bye, the Buccaneer road trip continues into Tennessee. This is always an interesting matchup because you've got the Winston and Mariota crowd. But for me,
and this is the first time before that first game too.
Yeah,
this is the second. So you're gonna really hear, especially if let's say like Mariota's doing well, Winston's struggling. Yeah, you're gonna hear it.
You're gonna hear him come out. But let me be honest, man. This is probably, out of all the games on the schedule, this is probably the hardest game to predict. Solely because
it is a coin flip.
I see the Titans is just a hard team to predict. I couldn't tell you how they're going to be doing this time of year. I don't think a lot of people can. But I do see one big weakness with Tennessee, and it is Marcus Mariota. Now, it's not necessarily Marcus Mariota in particular, but it's the fact that he's working with his 4th offensive coordinator since entering the league. Matt LaFleur, who called plays for the Titans last year, took over as the Packers head coach this offseason. In LaFleur's place, Tennessee promoted tight ends coordinator Arthur Smith to offensive coordinator. Headed into a contract year, Mariota must adjust to yet another new philosophy. However, head coach Mike Vrabel insists the in-house hire maintains continuity last year. And all I got to say about that is we saw something similar with Dirk Cutter, and we kind of know how that played out.
Yeah, but I mean, were you referring to a Dirk Cutter, like the in-house type thing?
Promotion from within, wanting to keep that familiarity, and then eventually it just didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's a little bit different. I mean, you're promoting a guy from like quarterback's coach to offensive coordinator rather than offensive coordinator to head coach. So
yeah, I can see that.
All right, so I figure why don't we do this? Why don't you give your prediction now, then I can go into mine and give my prediction, so that we're not like confusing people here.
Okay. I'll do my prediction. I'll toss it to you. Taking a look at this team, I think the Bucs can take this one on the road. They're going to add another W to the column. It's going to be 24-18. And they'll go to 4-3.
Okay. Yeah, for this one, this is technically the 4th straight game away from home. I'm not saying not 4th straight away game. I'm not saying that. 4th straight game away from home for Tampa. Because it's technically not their 4th straight away game, because they had the home game week 6. So it's good they're coming off of a bye. Because if they weren't, they'd be screwed. And I do think it's going to be a close game. And I agree with what you said. The Titans are a tough team to predict because they seem to beat the teams they shouldn't. Like sometimes you'll see, and they'll beat the Patriots or something,
and then they'll lose to who did they lose to the week after that? Was it?
It was like the
Cleveland,
Jets or something.
Oh, I think it was. I think it was the Jets.
It was somebody like that. Like they lost or when they shouldn't have. They lost to Miami last year. It's just the other thing, like you said, with a weakness is Marcus Mariota. I don't think he's a weakness, but the issue is, are you going to get Marcus Mariota or are you going to get Ryan Tannehill playing this game?
Well, yeah,
because
that's interesting too.
Mariota has not shown to be healthy and at all. I believe he's got injured every season. Obviously, maybe for longer times than others, but he hasn't played a full season yet in the NFL. So
yeah,
it's a big year for him, as is Jameis Winston.
Well, and the thing with Marcus Mariota too, you talk about he's going to be performing under pressure. He's going to have to play well in a contract year, but he's also got to adjust to two new guys, in A.J. Brown and former Buccaneer Adam Humphries, on top of a new offensive coordinator. So I think, this is, again, that time of year where you're kind of at the halfway point. Teams have found out how they're going to play, the identities they're going to have, but I think it's going to take him a little longer to kind of mesh with those guys. And again,
it's going to take him like 7 games, though?
Well, if Ryan Tannehill is a factor, then it might.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Well, anyways, I think the Titans are an underrated team. I think their defense is very underrated. They added some really good pieces. Cameron Wake. They still have Kevin Byard. They have Jarrell Casey still there. Harold Landry they have there. Gerard Evans, I believe, they drafted last year, I think. Who did they draft this year? I'm trying to think.
First round?
Yeah. Who did they draft? I feel like it wasn't A.J. Brown.
No, he was second round.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Jeffrey Simmons.
Okay, yeah, he's not really gonna. He's really good, but he's not gonna play this year. So yeah, he's not gonna play. Malcolm Butler in the secondary is decent. Other than that, okay, guys, they're okay. Adoree Jackson is okay. I think the Bucs are gonna lose this game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the first time that we have a little bit of difference here. So, guys, if you guys thought, oh, this is boring, they're all going to do the same thing. No, not. We haven't told each other the results
we
of this
haven't.
game.
This is the first time I've heard anything about his predictions. He's heard anything about mine. We also have the player awards that we're going to do at the end of the show, and neither of us know what that's going to entail. So this is the first time we've heard it, and as you can see right now, our first bit of disagreement.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I just think this is a tough game. And if it was in Tampa, I might probably pick the Bucs to win. But there's a lot of weeks on the road for this team. The Titans are no slouch. And I just think that this is a game that the Bucs typically do not win.
Yeah.
Historically, they don't win this type of game.
Yeah. So I understand where you're coming from. And I know that one of the biggest points to be made this season is just the sheer amount of weeks that they're playing not in Tampa. It is a rough series of games, but I'm going to get to that with this next game. Let's move on to Week 9. Tampa Bay still on the road trip. They're taking on Seattle in Seattle. And one of the biggest things I take away from this game, this is probably the biggest test of the entire 2019 season.
Really?
An average person can look at this game against Seattle and see it as only a road game against the Seahawks, who aren't as great as they have been in years past. We have been on the road for a little while, but it's a test. I see this as a game as the last road game in a long series of tough road games in one of the hardest stadiums to play in throughout the league. There is no denying the 12th man that still exists in Seattle. It's a loud stadium.
That ain't going nowhere.
It's a West Coast game. And it's in an area where at this time of the year, the weather isn't going to be in your favor. It's Seattle. It rains all the damn time. It's a test for the Bucs on how they can answer to the biggest challenge of the season at the end of a rough stretch. It's ultimately going to tell us what team we see from the second half of the year. I've got a few other points I'll get out there, and then I'll get my prediction and I'll toss it to you. But it's a big test. It truly is. I think it's a game that matters more than people think. It's going to be a messy game. It's probably going to be rainy. But another big factor in this game is going to be how well the Bucs defense is going to be performing this time of the year. If the line can find a way to get pressure on the quarterback, then it's the biggest way to slow down Russell Wilson, which is paramount to winning the game on defense.
Yeah, if you don't do that, you ain't going to win.
Yeah, we know who Russell Wilson is. But as it stands right now, this is a Seahawks offensive line that cannot protect their quarterback. Last year, the Seahawks offensive line cleared lanes for one of the better rushing attacks, but the pass protection ranked 30th per Football Outsiders, and Russell Wilson was ultimately sacked 51 times. A lot of people would prefer Wilson throw an incomplete pass rather than extend plays and welcome the pass rush. But on the other hand, he's Russell Wilson, and he's in a quarterback with an identity of making something out of nothing, which might be their only option. You know what I mean? Doug Baldwin retired. He's going to be working with some unproven wide receivers, including second-round DK Metcalf, fourth-rounder Gary Jennings. He's going to need all the extra time he can in there. And if the Bucs offense is clicking, I want to say that they step up to the task and they beat Seattle in a messy game, 17-14, and they're 5-3.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I have here that the Seahawks are still decent. Like, a lot of people are thinking, they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. I actually made that mistake last year.
They're winning at least 10. At
least, you think?
Yeah.
And you think that one of the losses is going to be against the Bucs?
8. They'll win at least 8. I'll give you that.
There you go. All right. That's a little bit better. I think that's I think their ceiling is probably 10.
Yeah.
But their floor is probably like 6 or 7. Just because they still have Russell Wilson. So, yeah, I thought this team was going to suck last year. I didn't think they were going to be good at all. They lost Richard Sherman. They got rid of Michael Bennett. There's a lot of moving pieces there. And I just didn't think they were going to be that great. They proved me wrong. Pete Carroll did a fantastic job. Shaquille Griffin and Shaquem Griffin were 2 very good players last year. Bobby Wagner is still one of the best linebackers in football.
Club.
Yeah, there you go.
Whatever, man.
I don't know why everybody's getting up in arms about the ratings. Like,
I couldn't give less of a damn about the ratings.
Exactly. But they're gonna change by week 3 anyway.
Exactly.
So I don't know. You can go in and change them yourself. Don't be lazy. So like you said, they're a different team in Seattle, and in Tampa, this would be a very much easier game. And the weather is going to be a little bit cold. Not freezing. It's not going to be the worst Seattle weather. If you were going like week 12, week 13, then probably. But week 9, it's going to be kind of chilly. Hopefully the rain doesn't impact it. Last time the Bucs were there in 2013, there wasn't any rain. I believe it was actually week 9 as well. So, and the Bucs actually blew a 21-7 lead. I think they had the lead there. 21-0 lead. I think actually at one point they ended up blowing it lost 27-24 or something.
That's right.
Mike Glennon was the quarterback. So that's when they did the trick play with Mike James. He took the handoff, went to the line, and he just tossed it up.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. Anyways, back to the now. I have the Bucs losing this one too. If this was in Tampa, it's the same thing as the Titans game. If this was in Tampa, I'd probably have the Bucs winning. But I just think that, and the travel is huge, especially with this one, because Seattle's all the way up there. Tennessee's down there, sort of Tampa's down here. New Orleans is over there. That's not too bad. But then Los Angeles is over there. London is, all the way across the pond. So, the record's 3-5, and I also have the bullet point season slipping away.
Oh man,
you're desperate for a win. So,
all right. So you've got them at 3-5. I've got them at 5-3. The boys are finally back home in Week 10. And they're met with another storyline game. Coach Bruce Arians' former team and number 1 draft pick Kyler Murray come to town in the shape of the Arizona Cardinals. For the Bucs, I have it where it's a similar agenda to last week's game against Seattle. You basically get to the quarterback. If you can do that, this could be a winnable game at home. Right now, Arizona's biggest weakness is protecting the quarterback. Last year, the front 5 ranked 26th in pass protection. Although injuries kind of factored into that, it's still not a good look. Furthermore, the current group will feature a new left guard, and Marcus Gilbert is taking over at right tackle. Now, why the hell is it important that Marcus Gilbert is taking over at right tackle? Well, since 2017, he's missed 20 games because of hamstring and knee injuries. On top on top of a 4-game suspension for violating the league's performance-enhancing drugs policy. So he's okay when he's
a
playing.
good player, yeah.
They've also got some question marks with who's starting at center, but taking a look at Kyler Murray, very similar to Russell Wilson, he can use his legs to escape under pressure, but, I mean, as a rookie, in this stage of his career, he should be focused on keeping his eyes downfield rather than having to scramble out, get away from the incoming pass rush. I hate to say he's at a disadvantage for being under 6 foot, but he's going to need some time in the pocket either way, whatever way you want to look at it. He's going to need some help back there. He is a rookie. And with that being said, I think the defense is going to help us roll to 6-3. Final score 24-17 in front of the Tampa crowd.
Okay. You have them 6-3 right now.
Well, right. You'll see how it plays out.
Okay.
It's an interesting road
It'll
stretch.
even out.
Yeah,
it'll even out.
I promise it'll make sense. I won't sound as delusional towards the end.
Oh, they're going 13-3, and Evan, you better be doing that blender thing.
Exactly, man.
Yeah, so I said a home game, all right? Finally. An actual home game.
Yeah.
After, what is it?
7 weeks?
That's 6 weeks? You know? Like games? Like 6 games?
A month and a half, basically.
5 games away. Okay, 5 games, 6 weeks. I said the Bucs are the better team. Better team doesn't always win, though, so I'm not going to give it away right away. By now, I said the defense should be in a decent rhythm. So like you said, I do think that by now the defense, unless they're complete dog crap, you know, if they're bad, they're bad. Like there is no decent rhythm there.
Yeah,
but
we're gonna definitely know that one by week 10.
Oh yeah, you'll know. You'll know everything by week 10. You'll know if you'll be by week 10. You're either going to be mesmerized with Jameis Winston and trying to figure out how much his contract is going to be, or you're going to be watching Justin Herbert highlights.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah. So and trying to figure out who the next GM will be, because Light won't be there either. Anyways, back to this. Back to Light's former team, Bruce Arians' former team. Bruce Arians and the Cardinals handled the Buccaneers every time they played them. Both games were in Arizona. Week 2, 2016, 40-7. Week 6, I believe, 2017. It was a little bit closer. I forget the final score, but it was a little bit closer. Still wasn't good, though. They handled them, and I think the Bucs are going to handle this team right now. They're desperate for a win, right? If they don't win this game, they're done. Like, if you're 3-6, you're done.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, when they went on that run in 2016, fine. They were 3-5. They won Week 10, right? You can't go on a run if you don't start like
winning.
Week 10.
Yeah.
If you're 3-6, if you're 3-5 or whatever, or let's say 2-6, you gotta win Week 10. If you don't, that's it. That's like because you're getting into November then, and yeah, that's when teams start to pack it in. Yeah. I said, take advantage of a rookie quarterback, right? Kyler Murray is talented. He's very talented, but he's also a rookie. And by then, yes, like he will have seen a lot of different things. Like, and he's gonna know. It's not like week 1 you're playing. I mean, he doesn't know what this is. Like he's gonna know. And they're gonna be in a good rhythm. But yeah, I do think the Cardinals are gonna be better than they were last year, but not as good as the Buccaneers. Not saying the Buccaneers are going to be a powerhouse because I have them at a 4-5 record with a win here. So,
yeah.
But I just think that the Bucs are going to be able to get it done. The defense, the Cardinals' defense has some nice pieces. Robert Nkemdiche is, he's just a bonehead, but he's a good player. Wouldn't surprise me if he's a Buccaneer next offseason. Just letting you know.
Wow.
It makes sense. Patrick Peterson obviously speaks for himself. Maybe the Bucs don't even play Patrick Peterson because maybe by week 8 or so, that's when the trade deadline is, and the Bucs could be. The Cardinals could be like really out of it, and they could trade Patrick Peterson.
You never know. I mean, he made that bold statement earlier this offseason. What did he say? I'm a Cardinal for life. I'm not going anywhere. I apologize for making you think I'm going somewhere.
Kyrie said he was going to resign with the Celtics. So Well, that's the Celtics. I don't blame them. And if you guys know who I like as a sports team, a basketball team, you get that.
Go Heat, baby.
No. So, anyways, yeah, Bucs are going to win this one. I'm going to go with an offensive explosion, kind of. 38 to 21. I'm going to say that 38 to 21. I think the first half will be a little tight, but once the second half hits, I think that the Bucs are going to be able to roll a little bit, and the Cardinals just don't have enough talent right now. And like you said, a guy like Marcus Gilbert by week 10, may not play, right? Yeah. I'm not saying he's going to get suspended again, but history shows with injuries, not looking too great with him. So we'll see what happens. But 4-5, and season isn't completely gone yet. So
all right. So an interesting take. Now let's move on to Week 11. The Buccaneers stay at home and they take on the New Orleans Saints. Another big time division game. And I'm just going to say this right now: the New Orleans Saints are going to sweep Tampa Bay in 2019. At this point in the season, which is Week 11, if my predictions stand correct, which they probably won't, the Bucs will have won 4 in a row. Momentum seems like it would carry from winning 3 on a road
just thinking
stretch.
About that, yeah.
Momentum seems like it would carry from winning 3 on a road stretch and winning to start a home stretch. But at this time of the year, the Saints will be on top of the division. Any momentum the Bucs will have will be met by the Saints and ultimately shut down. I like to believe every team has one ugly game a season, and this is going to be our ugly game. Bucs lose an ugly one at home, and the win streak is over. 34-14, 6-4 on the year.
I'm going to be at that game. I hope not.
Oh, man.
Jesus. Anyways, see, okay. Breeze doesn't play that well in Tampa Bay. Just doesn't, for some reason.
Doesn't. We saw it,
never
has. Last year.
The Saints do not play well in Tampa Bay for some reason. The Bucs always play the division tough. They do. Bucs are going to win this football game. I'm going to let you know right now.
All right.
The Bucs are going to win.
Right.
See, the reason is...
Is it because you're there?
No.
It's because you're getting your money's worth?
No. maybe 5% of that.
Right.
But I'm at the Cardinals. I'm going to be at the Cardinals game too. So, the reason I think the Bucs are going to win is, one, they're desperate still, because me and you, with our season predictions, we have 2 different storylines going on right now.
Oh, yeah,
you
definitely.
had the Bucs at 6-3 and pretty much either second or first in the division and in a playoff spot. I had the Bucs at 4-5 and fighting to keep their playoff hopes alive. This Bucs team is, in my predictions, your predictions, it's going to be 6-3. If they're a young team, they might let off one. My prediction is they're 4-5. They gotta win. They're gonna be desperate. They know they gotta win.
Right.
They're gonna be desperate for a win. They're gonna get a win. The best Bucs game of the year, I said. Not overall performance, like the Bucs are gonna blow them out. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the Bucs versus another opponent. The best game that you're gonna watch. It's gonna be back and forth. It's good. It's going to be a good football game.
It's going to be a team having to do everything well, and they might be able to pull it off.
That the Bucs are going to have to. They're going to have to, and from here on out, they're going to have to win most games. And this is a winnable game. It's hard to say about that because I think the Saints are probably a top 3 team in the NFL, but it is a winnable game. Just is. And I think the Bucs are going to win. So they're 5-5. They have fought hard to get back to 500, and now they go on the road again. So
all right. So on the road again, as you had just brought up, Week 12, Tampa Bay moves to Atlanta. First time we play the Dirty Birds all season, and it's an opportunity for our offense to shine. We've already heard about Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Austin Hooper, Matt Ryan. We already know that.
Austin Hooper. I don't think he's that great.
I don't think he's that great either, but we hear about him. That's for damn sure. We know the Dirt Cutter has the chance to make that unit even better as a returning offensive coordinator, but we also know that Atlanta isn't 100% in their secondary. This was a team, a defense in particular, plagued with injuries last year. I mean, I almost felt bad for them.
Yeah.
The Falcons starting safeties, The Falcons starting safeties went down with significant injuries last year. Keanu Neal suffered a torn ACL. Ricardo Allen tore his Achilles. In today's world, we see these players bounce back from setbacks, but it's not always a guarantee, and even when they do come back, there isn't a guarantee they're going to be the player they were before. Neal is a guy who's still developing, even though he's been a Pro Bowler in the past. And Allen just signed a 3-year, $20 million extension, if I remember correctly. Yep. He's been a solid starter, but he doesn't have a career ceiling comparable to Keanu Neal's. Coming off of injury, he's going to have the pressure on to play well because of just that big extension. And, of course, you've got Brian Poole. He was just replaced as the primary nickelback. They're going to need their safeties to play well. And I think the offense gets a chance to shine, maybe get some shots downfield, which can help out in a critical position. But I think it's an offensive shootout that the Bucs fall and lose 2 in a row to division rivals. So 42-38 is my final score. The Falcons win. Yeah. Offensive shootout.
You got some offense being played down to Tampa Bay, man.
I don't know where I get off with these predictions, but I wrote it down. I must feel this way. 42-38, and they move to 6-5. This is where it starts to make a little bit of sense. I'll give you that part. Okay,
so I wrote that the Bucs don't seem to have an answer for the Falcons' offense, and it seems that they don't have an answer in Atlanta because I swear even when they win in Atlanta, they still don't shut down the Falcons' offense. It has caused them trouble for years. Maybe a scheme change will help. Obviously, it's going to be a different scheme. For the past 3 years or so, it's been the same scheme. So maybe that will help. You're not going to, have Ryan Smith cover Julio Jones, but like you said, with this Atlanta team, they were very unlucky last year. They got in so many injuries, but it was in the first 4 games. They had lost Keanu Neal, Ricardo Allen, a bunch of other guys that they had lost to injury. And Devonta Freeman was injured last year. Calvin Ridley was injured for a little bit last year. They lost a bunch of guys. And a lot of people were picking them to bounce back because they lost all them guys, and they're getting all those guys back. I wrote in my notes, the Falcons are healthier now. And I said that did you use the word heartbreak?
No, I did not.
No, okay. I said Bucs lose a heartbreaker. I don't know whether it's on a last-second field goal or something, or a dumb play, a holding penalty, like that Oakland game a few years ago.
Oh, maybe one of those prototype plays that you draw up in a last-minute ditch situation, and it gets all the way down to the 1-yard line, and somebody can't catch the ball, and then you lose that way too. Yeah, I know about those endings against Atlanta.
In Atlanta too.
In Atlanta.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So the Bucs, in my thing, the Bucs are 5-6, and now it is really desperation time because you're getting into late November, early December, and you need to win every game you can. And on the schedule here, looking at there's some some winnable games. There's no game that I look at and say they have no chance to win.
Yeah. No, I get you. Hey, looking at the spectrum here. Headed into Week 13, I've got him at 6-5. You've got him at 5-6.
Your scenario is pretty good.
But I like to think so. Moving on, Week 13, Tampa Bay taking on Jacksonville in Florida. That's a road game that I might try and make because Jacksonville is just a 3.5-hour drive from us here in Tampa. The Bucs are going to follow up a loss with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were one of the most inconsistent teams in the NFL. They've got Nick Foles on an offense that's lost most of its talent at wide receiver. Last I remember, you still got Myles Jack taking a year off of football at the linebacker position.
Yeah.
Their biggest question mark, though, has got to be Leonard Fournette. He's
not good.
He's not good. He's a top 5 pick from the 2017 draft that really hasn't lived up to expectations. He's missed 11 games in 2 seasons, and he averages 3.7 yards a carry.
Yeah. He is the perfect body for a running back. He is the perfect traits. He was a high draft pick. The only issue is he's not that good at football.
Yeah, Jaguars offensive coordinator John DeFilippo.
Yeah, something. Yeah. When he was at the Eagles, I heard it a bunch, but
Jaguars offensive coordinator. He made it clear that their offense is going to feature a whole lot of Leonard Fournette, and if it is the Leonard Fournette that we see right now, they're in trouble. With his injury history, it seems like a touch-and-go situation for Jacksonville. I'm sure that at this point in the season, well, I'm positive that at this point in the season, being at Week 13, they're going to know if Fournette is a key part of the offense. So the passing game could find a way to gel if that's what they have to resort to. But with all of that being said, if it's Leonard Fournette, I don't think they're going to get a good run game going. I think the Bucs are going to take advantage of a pass-heavy offense, and they're going to win the turnover battle in this game. And I think your final score is going to be 24-17. Bucs on top. They go to 7-5.
Okay. Yeah, they be in a pretty good spot right there. I said that the Jags are improved and the Jags are healthy. And I know you could say, well, improved. Well, they got Nick Foles, and he's an upgrade over Blake Bortles.
He's definitely not Blake Bortles. Saying, I'll give him that.
Just saying, he's, Blake Bortles. You could do a Blake Bortles fact and say that Nick Foles is lost in the NFC playoffs, and Blake Bortles never is lost in the NFC playoffs. But you could do that. So yeah, that's a big thing. The quarterbacks, you got to have better quarterback play in Jacksonville, and I believe that they're going to get that. While Foles, I don't think Foles is going to do as well in Jacksonville as he did in Philly, because that's just something weird that in Philly just always seems to work. I do think he'll be better, though. Also, they had one of my favorite drafts. They added Josh Allen, and they were able to take is it Jawan Taylor?
We're talking about... Yes.
Jacksonville. Yeah, the tackle, Florida.
Yeah. Yep. Jawan Taylor.
I had him going to 7 with the Jacksonville Jaguars in my mock draft. They got Josh Allen at 7 and got Jawan Taylor in the second round. So I really like their draft. Their offensive line still has some holes, but their offensive line is getting healthier. Andrew Norwell is getting healthier. I believe Brandon Linder, I think they have, he's getting healthier. So they still have some pieces. Their receiving core isn't the best, I will give you that. They have Keelan Cole. Other than that, it's D.D. Westbrook's decent. We'll see though. I do think this is going to be a low-scoring game, and it's going to be a game that the Bucs lose. I don't think the Bucs are going to win this game. Like I said, just like with the Titans game, this doesn't seem to be the type of game that the Bucs typically win. And with this year, I'm taking a show me approach. Last year, I think I predicted them to go like 9-7, and the year before that, like 10-6. Like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, they proved to me that you can win these games. So this and the Titans game are probably the two biggest coin flips on the schedule. Yeah, and I have you losing. No, you're not wrong. I have you losing both of them. That's the difference between me being 7-5 with Rhett and me being 5-7 right now. That's the difference. So those games you don't win. The Bucs do not win those football games. When it's an away game against a team that's okay, decent, right, has a decent defense, they don't win the game. They just don't. A quarterback that's not going to turn it over much. Marcus Mariota, he's not the best, but he's not, like, he hasn't turned the ball over that much. Nick Foles typically actually plays well against the Bucs. So I just think that the Bucs are going to lose this game, and I think it's going to be another low-scoring game. Okay. So, and then the playoff hopes, I wrote playoff hopes pretty much gone. Yeah, you'd have to go on a pretty good run here.
Yeah, it's 7 losses. Even if you sneak in at 9-7, it's not a huge possibility. We saw the Bills get lucky with it not too long ago, but it doesn't happen very often. So, all right, you've got him at 5-7. I've got him at 7-5, headed into Week 14 against Indianapolis. The Bucs are going to play at home against Indianapolis, who's got Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton. That's going to be a much more definitive pass attack than Jacksonville. So, Indianapolis' biggest question mark, though, is consistency in the run game. Last year, their offensive line proved it could change the game by winning Andrew Luck 2018 Comeback Player of the Year. They ranked 2. They ranked 2, but they were probably the best offensive line in football, in my opinion. And Quentin Nelson is a huge piece of that. He is a monster.
1 pick.
Yeah?
Bucs are 1 pick away.
Oh, yeah.
Colts drafted him 6, Bucs had 7.
So, this is a team that might have trouble moving the ball on the ground, but even without that, we've seen the Bucs in a position where they've had trouble moving the ball on the ground, and they can hang with a lot of teams. They've been highly productive without being able to move the ball on the ground. So even without that being a question mark for Indianapolis, I think this is a game where a high-powered Colts offense is going to be way too much for Tampa. I think they're going to put up 33. I think the Bucs are only going to put up 21, and Indianapolis is going to win in Tampa, and they'll fall to 7-6.
Yeah. I said the Colts are one of the best teams in the NFL. It's a fact.
Yeah.
I said
better than a lot of people think they are.
Yeah. I mean, that defense is underrated, I think. I think their defense still has a few holes in the secondary. It's not the greatest, and that their pass rush get a little bit better. But I mean, Darius Leonard is incredible, and they have a lot of other good pieces there as well. What is it, Malik Hooker? Yeah, Malik Hooker is safety. He's been coming on pretty good now. So yeah, they have a strong grasp on what to do. They also drafted Rocky Sin from Temple, second round. He's a pretty good player. This fun fact, most likely, assuming no injuries, this will be Andrew Luck's first start against the Bucs because he was injured in 2015, and Matt Hasselbeck played and beat the Bucs in Indianapolis. So this is Andrew Luck's first action against the Buccaneers, and I think he's going to leave a lasting impression as they are going to come into town and they're going to beat the Buccaneers, and the Bucs are going to drop to 5-8, and that'll pretty much do it.
I think T.Y. Hilton's going to have 2 long bomb touchdowns. It'll be 50-plus yards. Andrew Luck will make that beautiful connection. And Andrew Luck, again...
They also have Eric Ebron, and Eric Ebron's had a breakout year. So.
He stepped up definitely last year, man. One hell of a tight end. But another former Bruce Arians guy in Andrew Luck, he's going to make a statement, and we both got him losing that one. But moving on to Week 15, Tampa Bay is going to be in Detroit against Detroit. After a loss to Indianapolis, the Bucs are going to be looking to rebound on the road. This is another chance where I see the offense has the ability to put up some numbers against the secondary that's kind of all over the place.
Darius Slay's really good.
Darius Slay's really good, but for starters, he didn't commit to showing up at training camp. Now, obviously, we're talking about Week 15 versus next week at training camp, but he didn't commit to that. He's become one of the top covermen in the league, but with contract time coming up, I feel like that's a storyline that can help determine their season in Detroit. That's a big storyline. You've got your top guy. He's not going to commit to you. He's going to be under pressure to play, and maybe he's going to want to play somewhere else. So you never know with that. But the Lions also released Glover Quinn, who announced his retirement this month, leaving a void at safety next to Quandre Diggs. Now, they drafted a third-rounder. Will Harris could earn the starting job, but you've got Tracy Walker, Tavon Wilson, and Andrew Adams are also all playing for that spot. The same Andrew Adams who picked off 3 interceptions against Cam Newton last year.
Still don't know why they didn't bring him back, but okay.
You never know, man. Maybe they saw him for what he was, which is a one-hit wonder, but if he wins that job in Detroit...
you could look, he led a team in interceptions. Okay, you had 3 in one game, but...
Right. So with all of that being said, I think this is a game in Detroit where the offense is going to be able to take advantage. They're going to shine, and I think Jameis in particular is going to put up his best season performance against Detroit on the road. 28-17, my final score in that one. Bucs moved to 8-6.
Okay. I said that. I'm just going to say it right now because there's nothing I can really say without kind of spoiling it. I think the Bucs are going to win as well. I just said that the Lions aren't that great. They're in a pretty good position to where if things don't go well this year, they can blow everything up. Maybe not like get rid of like Stafford, but get rid of guys like Darius Slay. Get rid of some of their offensive linemen they have. I think they still have I don't think they're Riley Reef, but they just have Taylor Decker, I believe. Yeah. They have a few other guys. Theo Riddick. I'm not sure if he's still there, but
I think he is.
Okay. They have him. Kerryon Johnson. I think they probably keep him, but there's a lot of pieces on that defense that they could go without if things don't go well. So, I think the Bucs are due for a win. I had them. What is this? That's 3 straight losses I had for them. that's rough. It's a rough stretch. It's a stretch that basically end their season.
Yep.
And I think that they're going to be due for a win. I also said a note here, and this is going to come into my next game as well. Playing for pride. I said you can get the job done against a bad football team. If you're playing for pride, you can typically win against a bad team. It is going to hurt that it's in Detroit, but that shouldn't. It's not like Detroit's a very tough place to play. So
right.
I do think the Bucs get a win there. Go to 6-8 on the season.
All right. So I've got them at 8-6. You've got them at 6-8. We are headed.
Oh, and also, since they won that game, that'll be all the fans complaining that they won the game because they want the better draft pick.
Okay, I get you. So you've got them at 6-8. I've got them at 8-6. Headed into Week 16, the Buccaneers are going to finish their season at home. They've got 2 more games left to play. Both of those will be in Raymond James to close out the year. They're taking on the Houston Texans. Playing at home is going to give them a pretty big advantage in these next 2 games. Week 16 sees the Texans come to town in what I think should be an entertaining matchup. First and foremost, J.J. Watt is the X factor for Houston, which is going to be the biggest test on the right side of that offensive line. The left side will have their hands full with Jadeveon Clowney, depending on what version we see of Jadeveon Clowney, because I remember the last time we played Houston, that was a big storyline, was slowing down J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney. And if I remember correctly, they did an okay job of it. I think we ended up. Are you going to see
the Houston Texans version of Jadeveon Clowney or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers version of Jadeveon Clowney?
Right. Yeah, it's really really going to depend here.
I'm just kidding. They're not. By the way, guys, we're not saying that that's going to happen. Yeah, but like you said, though, they played pretty well against them in 2015. I think Donovan Smith didn't give up a sack. So
yeah. So taking a look at this team as well, not only do you have the defense to worry about, but Deshaun Watson is going to take a step at quarterback this year. But at the same time, he's playing behind one of the worst offensive lines in football.
Brutal.
Dude,
that's brutal. Like if I can say something, like I don't know why the Texans didn't get a better offensive line for this guy. I don't understand. Like he's your franchise guy. You have one sole purpose. Your defense is fine. Your receiving core is fine. Your running backs are fine. Your quarterback's set. What? And you draft a freaking project offensive lineman in the first round.
Yeah.
Oh man, and now you don't have a general manager. So
yeah, really. When you can post highlights or lowlights, should I say, of that offensive line on Twitter, that literally, like, I saw one video someone had posted. I don't remember the play in particular, but it's basically a play where the Texans' offensive line just collapses. And I said out loud, like, oh, damn, because it's bad to look at. So anyways, they're going to be handling that. They're also going to be handling a pretty subpar defense if they can get the ball rolling with J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney. So with all of that being said, I think J.J. Watt and the defense might prove a little too much for the run game to really get going. Partner that with a good pass rush on their end. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I don't think it's going to work out in Tampa's favor. 17-10 the final score, and they go to 8-7.
Okay. Yeah, I just said that the Texans are good. Other than their offensive line, I mean, their defensive line with those 2 defensive ends.
Yeah, really. Stacked. What else can you say?
The good thing, not really the good thing, but the hope. If they're in a playoff spot, like if the Bucs are in a playoff race, there's no guarantee that Jadeveon Clowney or J.J. Watt is going to play in this game.
Yeah, that's true. You got to see how Houston's doing.
I'm not saying that. Trade them. Both are injury prone. Like I love J.J. Watt to death. Yeah, the dude gets injured once every year.
No, you're right.
Jadeveon Clowney. The reason the Texans don't want to give Jadeveon Clowney a big contract is because he's injury prone. That's why. So, yeah, if those 2 or one of the 2 don't play, they can maybe sneak out with one. Texans offensive line's not good. The Bucs pass rush should have some success. I feel like, and especially if the Bucs are in a playoff race, I feel like that's a game where Todd Bowles is just going to be sending the house a lot. But you also have to watch out because Watson can scramble a little bit. So maybe have like Levante David sort of like spy him and like send Devin White or something up the middle, try and get really Watson out. And if Watson goes out, then Levante can come down.
Exactly.
I should have like a whiteboard here, like show what I'm talking about, you know?
Right? Yeah, draw up the plays.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and this is why this didn't work. Yeah, I said Texans are good. I said that I'm just gonna say this is a loss. Bucs won't have much to play for. They really don't.
Yeah.
I said in parentheses, can play for pride and win against a bad football team. Because I feel like I might be contradicting myself if I said, but they don't have a lot to play for, when I just said they would beat the Lions because of pride. Lion pride. Against a bad football team, but playing for pride, you'll be able to stand toe-to-toe with a good football team, but you're most likely not going to be able to beat them. Every now and then you will, like 2017, the Week 17 game versus the Saints, right? The Bucs were done, right? Saints were moving on to the playoffs, and the Bucs beat them. They're playing for pride. That happens every now and then. I just don't think it's going to happen this time. Bucs lose. Bucs are officially eliminated from the playoffs. 6-9 record going into the last game. Excuse me. And I think it is going to be determined that Jameis Winston will receive the franchise tag from the Buccaneers.
Okay. I believe that Jameis is going to play well enough to, even if it is just a franchise tag, he's going to play well enough to stick around here in Tampa. But let's move on. We both have the Bucs losing against Houston, moving on to Week 17. It all comes down to this.
Oh, yeah, for you, this is pretty big. Either 500 or over 500.
So for me, with loss number 7 coming a week prior and playoff hopes out the door, the Bucs are playing for sheer bragging rights and possibly division placement. These late season games are always hard to predict. I think predictions in general are hard to do, but we do them here. These late season games are hard to predict, but I think the Bucs can make it happen in front of their home crowd against their former head coach. Week 17, 2018, Dirk Cutter left Raymond James Stadium a loser. Week 17, 2019, I think the same exact thing is going to happen. I think
it's a pretty good segue right there.
I think it's an offensive shootout that comes down to the wire, but I think the Bucs are able to win it. And get this, the same score as that New Orleans game you had just brought up, 34-28, and the Bucs finished the year 9-7.
Was that the same score as the New Orleans game?
I think it was 34-28 because the game winner to Chris Godwin, and then I want to say they had a missed field goal as well. That's why it was 34, not 35.
I think you might be right. Yeah.
Here, I'll do the Google search. You throw your prediction out there, and then...
All right, there we go. All right, yeah, so I have this as a win as well. The Bucs closing out the year on a high note.
24-31, by the way.
24-31. Okay. Yeah, well, actually, it was 24-23. Saints. Bucs scored that touchdown. Chris Godwin. Bucs went for 2, threw a jump ball to Mike Evans and got it. So that's how they got the 31. They did. Pat Murray missed an extra point in that game. So yeah. All right, yeah. So I said that they win. I said here, truly believe that the Bucs will split with all 3 division opponents. I do not think they will be swept at all. Unlike you think they'll be swept by the Saints.
Yep.
I do not believe they'll be swept by the Saints. I think that they're going to play the division tough. Funny thing, they won't win a road division game though. I have them losing to New Orleans in New Orleans, losing to Carolina in Carolina, and losing to Atlanta in Atlanta. I have them beating New Orleans in Tampa, beating Atlanta in Tampa, and beating Carolina in London, but it's technically a home game. So, and I also said Winston plays well against Atlanta, especially in Tampa. Look back to last year, one of his best games. Look back to the year before, one of his best games. Monday Night Football 2017, that was one of his best games. 2018, that was one of his best games. I still think that Monday Night Football 2017 was his best game ever.
I still think that Monday Night Football 2017, I think about that Mike Evans touchdown that wasn't technically a touchdown, but God, that was a pretty play.
How is it not? What do you mean? Which one are you talking about?
I remember the one where
there was a long ball touchdown that game.
There was a long ball touchdown. Mike Evans jumped up in double coverage, which to be fair wasn't the greatest throw by Jameis, but it's Mike Evans. He's going to trust him there. But he throws it, long ball touchdown. Mike Evans jumps up, grabs the ball, and in midair crosses the plane and lands between 2 defenders. But if I remember correctly, they called it on the 1 or the 2 yard line and not technically a touchdown, unless they had to overturn it.
Dude, no.
Then what am I thinking of?
You're thinking of something else because it's not that.
It might have been that same game. All right.
You know what? No, the Mike Evans to the thing, that was in the Giants game the earlier that year when James was sort of scrambling. He threw it up. Mike Evans caught it, rolled into the end zone. They called on the one.
Then maybe it was the Giants thing I'm thinking of. I'm wrong.
That's what that was.
I've been wrong all day today. So go ahead and get your prediction out there. I'm so sorry.
That's what that was. No, that was like I said. I still think that Atlanta game in 2017 was Winston's best. 2015 Atlanta in Tampa. That's when Winston had his the famous run where he wasn't down, actually. He got the first down. Bucs got the big win there. And 2016, I am drawing a blank on 2016. Oh, that was the Color Rush game, Thursday night game. Okay, so that wasn't the best moment. But Winston still played pretty well there. So he always plays well against the Falcons in Tampa. And I said the Bucs win a thriller. And in parentheses, I said unlike last year. So I think that it's going to be pretty similar. Like maybe a last-second field goal, a last-second touchdown. Something's going to happen there.
Yep. Comes down to the wire. So you've got them winning.
Final record, 7-9. And I think that Jason Light will stay. Obviously, Bruce Arians will stay. Jameis Winston will stay.
So 7-9 missing the playoffs. Well, I think we've talked about this before, but 7-9 missing the playoffs. If Jameis Winston stays, basically Jason Light's going to stay, right? That's
you're not going to be a new GM. Very rarely, unless you're like obviously like an Aaron Rodgers type, a new GM isn't going to come in and like get rid of Aaron Rodgers. But
right,
like in Jameis Winston's case, if Jason Light's gone, that's a pretty good indicator, especially since this year it's so easy to move on from Winston. Like after this year, because he's just a free agent, just don't re-sign him.
Yeah,
like you don't have to decide on an option or anything like that. Just don't re-sign him. So if Jason Light's gone, that means that Winston's gone.
Yeah. So the biggest storyline of the Buccaneers season coming up again, as we just talked about, is Jameis Winston and his ability to play well enough to get that extra deal from the Bucs.
There is some good news, though, before you go on your thing. Last thing I will say. Silver lining in all this, 7-9, there's two things. I know it's not playoffs, which people want. One, it's 2 more wins than last year. That's the first thing. That's improved, right? You were in a playoff race until like the last month and a half. All right, that's won some big games, and it was good. 2, this offseason you had cap trouble. Next offseason you should have some cap flexibility, and you should be able to go out and not get 3 or 4 stars, but maybe get some like 1 star
and some playmakers
and like 2 or 3 other players. So plus the draft, which is a pretty loaded draft again this year. So that's the silver lining in all this. They're not going to have as much cap trouble in this future offseason than they did last offseason. So you won't see them lose guys like Quan Alexander and Adam Humphries because they can't pay them.
Right.
Carl Nassib and Shaq Barrett are both free agents. I don't think they're going to keep both of them. I think it's going to be one or the other, and it's whoever performs better this season. So, like that, like you could see like one of them walk.
Yeah.
But then there's guys like it's like Jameis Winston, but then that's it. Like DeMar Dotson, Noah Spence, Ryan Smith, like that's it. Like you don't. And then obviously like Ndamukong Suh, I wouldn't bet on Suh coming back. Deion Buchanan. Maybe Kevin Minter, maybe, but those guys would be cheaper. Like you have money, like they're projected like $45 million before like the Winston extension, and all that. So they're gonna have some money to spend.
Absolutely. So a lot of storylines headed into this season. One of those we just talked about, Jameis Winston, and of course the cap space situation, which can help you out if the season doesn't go as planned. But with it all said and done, Evan and I have our predictions out there. I've got the Bucs going 9-7 with no playoff appearances, and Evan has the Bucs going 7-9 with no playoff appearance as well.
I'm assuming you think Jason Light, Jameis Winston stay as well, right?
Yeah. I think at 9-7, we've seen Jameis Winston win enough games to ultimately stick around. I still believe he's the guy. I think he can stick around.
Okay.
So We talked about the season. We broke it down game by game. We did exactly what we said we were going to come here and do, and that's predict the season. Now, we could be wrong. We probably will be wrong, but that's for us to figure out and everybody to cheer along the Bucs every Sunday until we find that out. But we didn't only come here to do season predictions. We're going to close it out with some individual player awards. Now, the lineup of awards we have tonight are Bucs Offensive Player of the Year, Bucs Defensive Player of the Year, Bucs Rookie of the Year, Buccaneers Breakout Player of the Year, and of course, Bucs MVP. So that's just your best damn player on the team. We'll start with Bucs Offensive Player of the Year. Evan, I'm going to toss this one to you.
I think we're going to have pretty similar guys for each of these awards.
Yeah. There's a lot of them that are shoo-ins.
Yeah. Well, yeah. My breakout player might be a little surprised, but...
Oh, I'm with you on that.
Okay. Offensive Player of the Year, Mike Evans. Yep. Yeah, it was, I did give some thought to O.J. Howard. I will admit, I gave some thought to O.J. Howard, but at the end of the day,
he's stay healthy.
Mike Evans just, but Mike Evans, and it's just, Mike Evans just too good.
Yeah.
There's just nothing, I can't, he hasn't really been injured, so I can't say you gotta stay healthy for him. He's just too good not to be the Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, he's in a position where I think he's going to come out, have another 1,000-yard receiving season.
Only way he's not is if Winston has an MVP season.
Right, yeah. So I can see him come out, have a dominant performance, and be the best offensive player that this team has, so we can agree on that. Moving on to our prediction for Bucs Defensive Player of the Year. I'll throw mine out, and then I'll toss it to you. Another guy that I can kind of assume is going to step up and fill the same role that he has these past few years, and that's linebacker Lavonte David. He's going to get some help from first-round draft pick Devin White, and I think it's going to allow Lavonte to maybe do some things we haven't seen him do these past 2 years, because if you can use Devin White a little more effectively than you can use Quan Alexander before he gets injured, then maybe we'll see him get some opportunities that he hasn't had these past few years. But I think Lavonte David is going to be Bucs Defensive Player of the Year.
Agreed. Yep, I think he's going to be the Defensive Player of the Year. I didn't really give consideration to anybody else here. I thought it was pretty clear, especially once Jason Pierre-Paul went down.
Yeah, that was a big thing too.
It's tough to It's tough to give Devin White that. It's tough to give a guy like Ndamukong Suh. Anybody in the secondary, there's too unproven. So
yeah,
I agree with you there.
Definitely. So moving on, I think we're going to be 3 for 3 on this. I truly do.
Yeah.
The next award we have is Buccaneers Rookie of the Year. It's hard to say anyone but Devin White. I think Devin White is going to be the most effective rookie in his position. He's filling a role where the Bucs needed help at linebacker, and as I just said, he's an important role because something you had talked about, I think, when we were predicting one of the New Orleans games was you can put him in a situation where Devin White can be sent to put pressure on the quarterback can roll out, and if Lavonte David is in a good enough spot, he can capitalize, clean it up, and maybe even get a sack on the play.
The Texans game.
Yeah,
the Texans have a bad offensive line, so you can send
there's
him
a
up
lot
the middle
of situations where Devin White can make people around him better. Second-round draft pick Sean Murphy-Bunting was somebody that I had thought about as well, but he just doesn't seem like someone who can make everyone around him better from day one. So,
it's too much of a risk right now. Yeah.
Right. So Devin White's going to win Rookie of the Year for me, and I'm sure he's won it for you as well, right?
Yep. Same reasons. He's just going to be an impact player, and well, like I said, I didn't agree with the pick. I didn't. It's not that I didn't like the player. It's that I thought they should have picked someone else. That's all. Devin White is a heck of a football player, and he's going to be very good for a very long time.
Absolutely. So moving on to our last batch of awards, we have got the Buccaneers Breakout Player. Last year, I gave this to Vernon Hargreaves because I thought he was going to break out. Little did I know he'd get injured and barely see the football field.
Did do solid, though, before he got injured.
He did. And he was coming into his own. He's going to have to step it up this year as well. He's got a very, very, very big role to fill this year. But this year, I'm going to give it to a guy who can benefit kind of the opposite of Devin White. This is a guy who can benefit because of the people around him. A big key player that the Buccaneers brought in this offseason was defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh. And I think what we saw with him and Aaron Donald in L.A., he kind of made Aaron Donald better than what he is. You can't take away numbers. Aaron Donald is the best defensive tackle in the NFL, but I don't think he'd get 20 sacks without Ndamukong Suh. And with that being said, I think Vita Vea is going to have a breakout season. He's not going to put up record-breaking sack numbers. We've already been over this, but I think he's going to play to the best of his ability because he's going to have a solid guy next to him, and he'll live up to that first-round hype.
I considered a lot of players for this. Obviously, Chris Godwin. I was between like Chris Godwin and the guy I picked. Also thought a little bit about Ronald Jones, not going to lie.
Yeah,
Peyton
got some pressure too.
Peyton Barber I thought about a little bit because I think Peyton Barber's going to have a really good year. Not really anybody else. I mean, Jameis Winston doesn't really count for a breakout for me. So I decided that after like long debating Chris Godwin or this player, I decided to go with Vita Vea. And,
no way.
Yeah, I have Vita Vea as my breakout player, and so far we are 4 for 4
God,
with the same exact ones.
I hate this because we're probably going to be 5 for 5 too.
Yeah, likely. Well, I put Vita Vea because I didn't think you were going to. So like that was one of the things. I was predicting Chris Godwin. I was trying to get Chris Godwin or Vita Vea. I was like,
right.
He's probably gonna pick like Godwin or Howard. So why don't I go with Vea? And it backfired. So when you said another key addition to the offseason, I was like, oh.
You knew immediately. You said, damn it.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God.
Sorry,
so,
bud.
Yeah, hey, no, it's no problem. So, yeah, we got the same players. I do think that Vita Vea, I do think he might benefit a little bit from Suh, but I think he's also going to benefit just from having a full training camp and preseason.
Yeah.
He came on late last year, and I think he's just going to continue that. So he's not going to get, he's not going to be a Pro Bowl player, but I do think he's good. Also, this means that Vita Vea is not going to be good at all because you predicted Vernon Hargreaves last year. I predicted Noah Spence.
Stop. Don't even say
and also,
that. Stop.
Also, I love Noah Spence so much that popped in my mind, too, giving it to him.
I know. He was actually a name that popped into my head as well, but I haven't seen enough from him to be comfortable in saying he's going to take a step this year.
Yep. So,
man.
Bucs MVP is the last award we got.
Moving on to Buccaneers MVP. Oh, man. I've got Mike Evans. Do you also have Mike Evans?
I do have Mike Evans.
So we both have Mike Evans. So
we both have the same exact awards. Sorry, guys. Well, here's the good thing. If we're at the end of the year when we're wrong, you can make fun of both of us and not just one of us. So.
Exactly. So season predictions were 2 games apart, and
at least we don't have like the same record for season predictions.
That's true.
We might as well delete the show if we had the same exact record.
A couple of Joe Schmoes in here, right?
Yeah, just agreeing with everything everybody says.
So that's that, ladies and gentlemen.
Also, that's not good news that we have the same players. I'm just letting you know that's not. How is that good? How is that good?
It's not
that
to
it's
think
so
that,
obvious.
To think that we've got the same talent. We're both kind of thinking the same exact thing, but who knows? Maybe there's
means. Since we got the same players, that means that there's not enough players on this team to, maybe him, or it was Mike Evans or Levante David for Bucs MVP. For Defensive Player of the Year, it was just Levante David.
Right.
Offensive Player of the Year was Mike Evans and maybe a little bit of O.J. Howard, but other than that, Rookie of the Year, Devin White, that was it. Breakout Player of the Year was the toughest one, and we both had the same one.
Well, hey, we have got a lot to be proven throughout the rest of this year, and we're going to ultimately see how the Bucs can put it together this season. I've had a good time talking about it. I'm sure you've had a good time talking about it. And ladies and gentlemen, for anyone watching along or checking this out afterwards or even listening on iTunes, drop a comment wherever you can and let us know your predictions. Let us know how you think this team is going to do over the 16-game schedule. Let us know how you think they're going to do with Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. Let us know your player of the awards. Throw that stuff out there. You know what I mean? Get at us on social media. Let's get interactive in this thing, and let's get excited for the 2019 Tampa Bay Buccaneers season.
Cam, players report. First, the rookies report Sunday. By the way, as of this recording, we're recording this Friday night.
Yep.
Airing Saturday. So by the time we record this, Devin White may be signed. May not. If not, he just won't report on Sunday. It's happened. Sam Darnold last year, it happened with him. Quinnen Williams, Nick Bosa, they're all not signed either. So it's not the end. It doesn't mean he won't play for the team. It just means that it might take a few extra days.
Yeah.
Rookies report Sunday, veterans report Thursday, and the first practice at One Buccaneer Place / I guess Advent Health Training Center is Friday, July 26th. So just around the corner.
Yeah, very, very excited to get these guys back in the building. And, of course, if Devin White is signed or if he isn't, we will be right here with you next week to talk about it right around the start of training camp because we have just
you have some stuff to talk about. So.
Absolutely. We have just kicked off our new season of coverage, and with that is the 2019 season prediction show. So, ladies and gentlemen, to everyone watching, to everyone listening, we appreciate you for being a part of it, and we hope you were a part of it this 2019 season as we enter our third year of coverage. But with all of that said, that's just about going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire podcast. Thank you so much for listening or watching with video, whether it was on YouTube or BucsReport.com. Again, another big shout out to our friends over at BucsReport.com, putting together one of the best damn podcast networks in the game. You have got Real Bucs Talk, Buck What You Heard, the Red Flag Podcast, Buck Ball Podcast, plenty of great podcasts to go check out. So make sure you go check those guys out. And of course, doing live shows every single Saturday from Ferguson, St. Pete. And again, something I've mentioned before, coming up this regular season, every single Buccaneers home game, the Cannon Fire podcast and the guys from Bucs Report are going to be out at Ferguson, St. Pete doing an official Tampa Bay Buccaneers watch party. So it's going to be a good time. Make sure you get out and say what's up. But let's get excited for this season, guys. It's going to be a good one. Last but not least, you can check out the show on social media. We are on Instagram at Cannon Fire Podcast. Facebook is Cannon Fire Podcast. And Twitter is just Cannon Fire Pod. You can follow myself on Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. And you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram and Twitter at BucsWave. Our little handles right above us on the video portion there if you're watching with us. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all that's got to be said. Our predictions may be wrong. They may be right, but we'll find out.
Will be wrong.
We'll find out come December. So thank you so much to everyone for watching. We will catch you guys next time. Go Bucs.